Welcome, Nelson, and welcome also to Chris Rich, who's always a very loyal spectator. He takes part in most of our lives. Thank you so much, Chris Rich, for always being so kind to join us. I will put Nelson in the spotlight, of course. We'll talk to you later, Chris Rich. I mean, we'll see you here on Zoom anyway, but we will, of course, but our friends on Facebook will see you later. Okay, cool. Nelson, welcome. Welcome to the Personal PR Show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. How are you doing?
Not too bad, thank you. Yes, I'm here in Switzerland. It's 4 p.m. and it's tea time. It's not the coffee time anymore. How about you? What time is it and where are you?
I'm in Toronto, Canada, and it's 10:09 a.m. in the morning.
Ah, nice. It's coffee time, but actually for you it's tea time because
tea time.
So we're both having tea. That is great. So I will, by the way, I will include the link to our Zoom conversation in our Facebook Live so people can join us on Zoom. I'm just typing in chat. Okay, so then they can ask you questions directly, like Chris Rich will be able to do because he's here. Otherwise, we will take questions from Zoom as well. Anyway, so we're here with you, Nelson. You are an amazing publicist with so many years of experience. It's crazy. I can only learn from you. So it's really a privilege to have you with us here today. So would you like to tell us your story, maybe how you got into public relations and all the good things about your career?
Sure. So I actually started off back in 1980. I graduated from Seneca College of Applied Arts and Technology in 1981, studying radio and television arts, which had nothing to do with what I went on to do. But I went into a family business that was involved in motorsports in Canada, racetrack called Mosport Park. That my dad was running, and I joined and I learned from the ground up how to do PR, marketing, sponsorship, promotions. I did it all. I wore all the hats. So worked there for about 14 and a half years until his unfortunate, he passed away. His partner came in and took over it and went different directions. So I left there in 1996 and sort of did some freelance work for a couple of years. And then in 1999, I launched my company called Hudes Communications International, doing PR for individuals, for book authors, for anybody that wanted my services to do PR for. And then from there, years later, decided to hone that in and work with only companies. And in the last couple of years, mostly working with only public companies and helping them get their message to the media and getting it out there.
Oh my God.
So in a nutshell, that's my story.
Yeah, this is an amazing story. And something that I want to remark, one of the many things though, is that you went from working with promoting basically individuals to working with companies, right? And then public companies. And I did exactly the opposite thing. So I went from companies to working with individuals, right? And I created personal PR.
Well, I found that it was more lucrative and more money in working with companies and charging them obviously a bigger, just like working, with a big PR agency, it was way more lucrative to do that than working with small individuals that didn't really have lots of budget. And so I honed in on what I wanted to go after, and that's led me in that direction. And I know my market. I concentrate on that market. I have referral partners that lead me to that market. I don't deviate from that lane, and I stay focused on that lane only. And that's the goal. And so, I don't go to small business BNI networking groups. They're not lucrative for me. They're a waste of my time. And so I concentrate on having referral partners that can lead me to either CEOs or VPs of marketing that that are decision makers that can say yes or no to hiring me, and that's where I am today.
And it works. You're still that big. Yeah, exactly. Well done. Love it. Yes. And but I think that when it comes to, regardless of whether we are promoting a person or a company, there are certain principles to newsworthiness that are the same, right? So the principles of creating a newsworthy story, like some of them can be found in both, people, like promoting people and promoting companies. What do you think? Because this is the title of our conversation today, how to craft a newsworthy story.
Right. So tell me again what your question is again.
Yes. So basically, because we say that, so just in general, the I think my consideration would be that having experience in both, like you have experience in what, you know, promoting companies and promoting people, I think that when it comes to creating a newsworthy angle, lots
Yeah.
of the principles are the same, right? To
Yeah.
newsworthiness. Okay, number one. And number two, because this group is basically all about personal PR, so it's about people promotion. I think that maybe, no, like based on what we just said, I think that the principle that you will share that maybe you're still using today for companies can also be applied to our audience today here.
So you got to find stuff that, okay, so if there's already existing stuff that they're talking about out there in the news media, if you can craft an angle that something is already being talked about, we call that like newsjacking, you know. Like I'll give you a couple of examples. Back in 2005, there was an Air France flight that missed the runway in Toronto, and it landed, and there was smoke and there were flames and everything going on. And I had a client in the aviation industry, and I called the CEO and I said, I don't care what you're doing today, do not turn off your phone. And if you see my number come up, you take the call. Why? What are you going to do, Nelson? I'm about to send out a media advisory telling them that I've got an expert in the aviation industry that can comment on what just happened today. And I sent out an advisory to every television station in Ontario, every newspaper, I was flooded with calls of people who wanted to talk to them because it was something that was already out there that was news. So I took advantage of that and got all the coverage for that. So that's one way. You know, another example was just recent in July. I have a technology company that I'm working with that's based in here in Toronto, and you know, all about the future of technology. This company does something called digital smart labels, which if you walk into a grocery store, you see the paper labels on the aisles. They get rid of the paper labels, and they've replaced them with digital smart labels that can they're electronic labels that can be used for, like, they have battery life of 10 years, and they can be operated by a company's POS system. So the whole story angle that I pitched out was the future is now. The labels go digital. I mean, that's cool. I mean, and I have a relationship with a reporter at City TV in Toronto, and I didn't even send it to the assignment desk. I sent it to her directly. Within a week, she emailed me back and said, can we do this today? Because they wanted it for the 5 o'clock and the 6 o'clock news. So I crafted a cool techie angle that was easy to understand, and so on. And so, you know, again, with mostly, you know, technology companies, if you can find something cool that's good for industry publications, you know, either they want you to write an article about it, or they'll assign somebody to write an article about it. That's a great way to get in to the press, is getting industry publications and getting press that way. You know, it's not all about, in terms of local, you know, if you're just starting out and want to get publicity for yourself or your company, you got to start small and start local. Don't go after the CNNs of the world. Go after local news. Go after small newspapers, you know, and have something interesting. Not all about you and your product, because they can see right through that, and they can just tell you, go buy an ad. You know, the piece that I got for my client was a 2-minute story that aired on the 5 and 6 o'clock news. You know, I found an interesting angle that made it interesting for the reporter to want to do a story on. If I hadn't done that, they could be told to go talk to a sales rep and buy a 30 or a 60 and multiply that by 2 minutes. It's worth thousands and thousands of dollars that they wouldn't normally buy. But basically what they ended up getting was an interesting story on the air. And that interesting story, basically, realistically, was a 2-minute television commercial for the company.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the CEO actually pushed back at me that morning because I texted him and I emailed him or tried to call him twice on his cell phone and he didn't answer. And then I texted him and I said, John, you need to call me ASAP. So he calls within less than 5 minutes. What's up, Nelson? And I told him, I said, television station wants to do story today. They want it for the 5 o'clock and the 6 o'clock news. I need you at some point today to pick one of your customers. We need to go to a grocery store and we need you to on camera. Nelson, I've got investor meetings all day long. Can't we do this another day? I said, John, no, you can't do it another day. They want it for tonight. If you say no, it goes away and I can't get it back. It's gone. I said, so you need to find a way to do this. So I pushed right back at him. I mean, he's hiring me for my expertise and I'm telling him if he says no, it's gone. He goes, I'll call you back. Calls me back within 5 or 10 minutes. Okay. One of our customers has agreed to do it. You can meet him at this store. He tells me where it is. My son will meet you there and he'll go on camera. I just can't break away today. I'm real sorry. I said, fine. So I met his son there. We did the whole thing. We were done by 3 o'clock. This piece aired at 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock. And then the next day he said, good for you. Kudos to you for pushing me to do it because it's the best piece we've ever had. Now, around the same time, another group that I'm in, another PR group that I'm in that's based out of California, it's a community. Somebody said to the community, the CEO of my client CEO has just turned down the opportunity to get interviewed by Forbes and by USA Today. I said, I respond, you got to be kidding me. You need to read your client in a nice way, the Riot Act, and say if he's too busy, he needs to, he or she needs to assign somebody else in the company to be the media spokesperson because those kinds of opportunities don't grow on trees. They don't come along every day. And like, I was just like livid beside, like it wasn't my client, but I was just like, as a PR person, I was just livid. How stupid is this CEO?
Yes, exactly. They are the first ones also that if you don't get results, media clippings, that then they will complain because you haven't delivered, right?
That's right. It's all about delivery. And in terms of delivery, I get asked all the time. It's the $1 million question that every potential client asks is, so what are you going to get us? What are you going to guarantee us? My answer to that always is I don't guarantee you anything because if I were to do that, and I don't deliver what's promised, you want to fire me, right? What I will tell you is I'll have a goal in mind. The goal is to try and get 3 to 5 media hits a month. I think that's fair. And if I get that, you're happy. If I exceed that, which is the real goal, you're on cloud 9, baby, and loving me to death. So that's what I just had this conversation right before the Jewish holiday with a potential new client and said, so what, and he says, so I think he goes, 5 media hits is a good goal, is a good metric for you to get for us. I said, no, or he said it in the way that you can guarantee for us. I said, Andrew, I don't guarantee you 5 hits. I said, you can tell your board. I said, he said, it came from the board. I said, Andrew, I know you get it because I've worked with you before through another agency, but clearly what you've just told me is your board doesn't understand my business. And that's, and I will tell you, I will not guarantee you 5 hits. You cannot go back to the board and tell them I'll guarantee. You can go back to the board and tell them that the goal is 3 to 5 media hits a month and I'm going to try and exceed that. So that you can tell them. And that is fair. If that doesn't work, if you do a 3-month deal, which I don't do anymore, like I only do 6 months or a year, then at the end of the term, if you're not getting them what you said the goal was, then they've got every right not to renew. But if you're getting that goal or you're exceeding that goal, why would they stop?
Yeah, totally, absolutely. Yes, it's so important to manage expectations because a lot of people think that it's like with ads, basically with advertising space. You just buy the advertising space and then you have
control you control the whole thing. When you buy an ad,
you can't control anything, and therefore you can't guarantee anything. You can try to influence, but you can't control.
I mean, in 2016, I was on a phone call with the CEO of a company, his partner, and his two marketing directors on a Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. And they were talking to me about whether to take me on or not. So it was like 4 against 1, okay? And I got asked that question. I said, guys, I'm not guaranteeing you anything. You've seen my work. I will tell you that this is what the goal will be. And, you know, you can sign or not sign. So they signed. They signed for 3 months. And after that, okay, send us a new contract for a year. And that was it, right? And so they saw that I knew what I was doing. You know, I don't even do proposals anymore. Okay. And in this PR group that I'm in, that's based out of California, all the members are really, they're dumbfounded by the fact that I won't do them. Look, I've got every public company has what they have to have, which is an investor deck. So I've extrapolated on that idea, and I've created a PR capabilities deck. And the PR capabilities deck shows who I am and what I do, and then it gets into what we used to do in school, which is show and tell. And I show off all my PR hits for various companies in various industries. When I get a CEO on a Zoom call and I'm pitching them to hire me, I show them that. If the diversity of showing them 3 or 4 or 5 companies in that deck doesn't tell them that this guy knows what he's doing, and they don't want to play with me, fine. But I won't do a proposal. About a year and a half ago, I decided I'm not playing that game anymore. I'm not doing that, and I don't do RFPs either.
Wow.
I don't. Doing RFPs to me are invitations for companies to steal all your ideas and not hire you. Even if you're really vague on strategy, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I won't do them.
Yeah, exactly. No, absolutely. It's a way to steal ideas. That's true. A lot of companies do it by design, actually.
Yeah.
That is true. But Nelson, going back to newsjacking for a second, I would like to bring in Chris Rich, because he recently, he doesn't have the background of a publicist, background as a publicist, but intuitively, he did some newsjacking last month, he told me. So Chris Rich, would you like to tell the story?
Yes, please. I would like to come in and tell about this trial, which we prepared together, which I thought is really something great. And that is actually a situation from my past employer, where I experienced some difficulties in the end of the employment. Also in connection with me learning a lot about personality analysis concepts. So I especially learned about spiral dynamics, 9 levels of value systems, and the Reese motivation profile. And combined with this deep dive understanding, I realized the situation where I'm in has room for improvement. And then I tried to change the situation, and I failed. And they fired me. And then I thought all what happened there was quite bad, and from a legal perspective, it can be investigated. And not just from a civil law perspective, also from a criminal law perspective. And then I decided to go to the police station and give them the company laptop with telling them high-level story, and it needs to be investigated because of this, this, and this, and this. Here is the laptop. Please start this investigation. And then the state lawyer decided to not have a look at that. And then with the help of a lawyer, I went to the next level from the cantonal court. In Switzerland, there is the region called canton. So the cantonal court also said that they don't want to investigate this case for an unclear reason. And then I thought, this is quite interesting that I have certain evidence that it should be investigated, and the state doesn't want to investigate. And I reached out to a news organization in Switzerland, and they discussed this internally and even came back with an email statement that they don't want to get involved in the current legal investigation or legal cases that are going on. As I understood, they prefer to wait until there is a legal decision before they report it in the news. But now I have the contact, and we reached out to the federal court, so the highest court level, with the lawyer. And the question is now how this will be decided. But in case it's in my favor that they decide this has to be investigated, what really happened there, I would have an easy contact to directly send it to the right senior executive, senior reporter there, and tell them this has been decided by the court. It's now not a running court case, it's decided. And this is then connected in the entire message of, I think, mental safety is important. Mental safety needs to be a priority for every CEO. This shouldn't happen, that people burn out due to internal team issues. And this would then lead to my coaching business and telling them more about what is important from a personality analysis concept perspective.
Okay.
So did that lead? Wait, I'm sorry, Jessica.
Excuse me, Nelson. I will give you a little bit more background. Thank you so much for explaining all of this, Chris Rich. And I can tell you, Nelson, what happened last month, more or less. So last month, Chris Rich reached out to me and said, look, there is in another newspaper, he was trying to, to pitch this piece of news to a certain newspaper, actually one of the most important newspapers in Switzerland, prestigious and so on. And then in another one, which is more of a tabloid, but still very popular, there was an article about, mental health at the workplace, basically. And,
okay, good.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I was going to ask. Where did the newsjacking come in? Because it wasn't something I heard him say that it was already out there.
Exactly,
I referred to the other news published, and they really realized there is an increase in these problems of mental safety. More people have mental issues, burnout in the workplace, and with this entire development of digital transformation, and more work gets automated, and not everybody can learn as quickly to be well integrated in the new requirement what work needs to be done. And I think the entire world has certain issues that are quite urgent, where we need to focus on the right development, the right focus. And this entire discussion about new work is something that leads to a direction of we only want to work 4 days. But I say we need to work the right work that we don't experience as work, and we are full of energy and passion when we do things. And this entire concept of focusing on the right thing is then also connected to this social music network about artistic interests, because coming with a complex personality analysis concept is a bit too much for the start.
Let's cut to the chase here. Did you get a story out of it? That's what I want to know.
Not yet, but I'm on it.
Okay.
Okay. Is the news still circulating? Is it still a trendy topic? Because maybe it was, in the news a lot last month, but maybe not anymore now or next month.
I would say this is an ongoing topic since years already. I don't select or collect all these articles, but this comes up every now and then, that the mental safety topic is something crucial.
Definitely a trend. A trend is something that is more extended in time, but we really want to do
it's very interesting that he mentions that, because there was something in the news here in Canada about and I won't mention names, about a senior senior anchor woman at a major television station that was let go, and they talked about sexism, change of her hair color, change of this, change of that, and there was also allegations in the news about the place being a terrible place to work because of it was brutal there because of mental issues that came out after the fact, and it was ongoing investigation about that. So it's out, that topic is out there in the news. I think what you need to do is just to find somebody somewhere talking about it, and use that article or use that piece of news to try and hone in on that topic a little more, and try and keep pitching it as a topic that's newsworthy.
I have statements from employees in writing with LinkedIn conversations. Actually, I have evidence this is not just invented by me. And now I remember from reading recently, I think it was today or yesterday, regarding work conditions at the large company Credit Suisse. So this is actually
maybe you can find some survey results about toxic workplaces and show percentages and things like that. That would get their interest, because it's a survey that's out there that some company did, or you know, it's tangible. So that way you can tie your story to it. That's what I would say, is you've got to find something out there already. Use studies, use surveys, use things like that's tangible, that's already out there talking about the subject. And then once that's you've used that, then you can go to your example. That's what I would say.
And then the question is,
what do you think, Jessica?
I think so as well, because when you pitch a publication, you should make it about yourself, right?
That's right.
Exactly. So you can talk about yourself, your business, maybe in a second step and still in a subtle way, right? But the first, like when you do a pitch, for example, I'm talking Italian, for example, in an email, like the title, like the subject line and the first paragraph of your email, this is prime real estate. You shouldn't use it to talk about yourself. You should use it to really, you know, get the interest, like talk about something that the publication, the readership, and thus the journalists are interested in.
It's all about what's good for the readers, the listeners, or the viewers. You know, if you're just pitching your personal experience with this company, all they're going to think is, okay, this guy's a former employee, he's got an axe to grind against the company, and they're not going to be interested. That's all. That's what I'm hearing.
It's actually not that what I want to communicate. My question is how I can transform this story to a general information.
I understand that, but you've got to, what I suggested is you've got to go about it a different way. You've got to go about it from the point of view of an existing angle that's out there, that people are talking about this already, and use studies or use surveys or things like that, where you know that you can use to pitch the story idea and then get to your example. If you go with your example first, they're going to think you're just a disgruntled employee who's got an axe to grind against this company, and that's all they're going to care about, and then they're not going to want to interview you because that's all they see.
And the fact that the state doesn't want to investigate, do you think this is relevant or not?
I don't think that's my place to comment on that, because I don't know the particulars of what you've got going, what you're talking about. So I would have to answer your question, I would have to read more about it. I don't have the details.
Yeah, I understand.
I don't have all the I don't have all the details to make a comment like that. I don't know.
No, in this case, it's a bit difficult because everything is in German, but from a general perspective, there are different areas which have some relevance, I think, depending on how you tell it. And the fact that I raise a situation that you can say it should be at least investigated and come to the conclusion it's nothing.
Again, if I was a media person, then you're coming to me with this, I would think you're an ex-disgruntled employee that has an axe to grind against the company. That's not news.
Yeah, this happens sometimes. And this is actually not that message that I want to give. I would like to help organizations and people that they are a bit more friendly with each other. That would actually
you got to go about it. You got to go about it a whole different way.
And this is actually the social music network, SCHY.ch, which has this other angle, but there I'm also struggling a bit to get this message over. So I just realized with everything what I heard so far, that just putting on some social media posts and then you don't get a lot of reactions. Everybody is doing that, or a lot of people, and also large companies are sometimes posting something and not many people are reacting on that because it's not a good storytelling or not innovative. And overall, I think you need to be creative, clever, different, and depending on the situation and what makes sense at the moment, where you have this angle to connect somehow to something what is already ongoing and then adapt to this. It's like art, what you do, this profession of effective communications and public relations, that you need to be very awake and in the right moment react in a way that creates attention. My question would be, how can someone learn this sensitive feeling of understanding what works, what doesn't work? Is this just experience or more coaching from Jessica and people like you?
I think both.
Experience and coaching. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm here at the right place, right?
You have to study, of course. You have to go. I mean, I went to PR school and I studied a few things that are notorious to work, right? So I already got, let's say, the theoretical preparation, and then of course you go into the field as well, and then you put, you know, all of these principles in practice, and then you find new ones for yourself. Then it depends on the industry where you're working as well. It depends on many things, on the people that you're working with as well. Yes.
Okay.
But definitely experience helps a lot. Definitely. I mean, Nelson has for so many years, like he didn't do this in his sleep. He sees angles everywhere. This front, like angles that will work. It's in a totally natural way, right? So he's very trained. His brain is trained for that.
And then also try it different. So when something just doesn't work, then don't try to push that over and over again.
Don't try. No. Don't
find
be
a
the
new
dead
way.
horse.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, if it doesn't work after a few tries, change the angle and try and find another angle and make it work.
Okay, my new angle is actually that what I have done with this programmer, that there is now a platform where people can register and create these profiles, and sending out this message with a few YouTube videos where I explain it to several people in the music industry. I actually have now a meeting with a social media expert leader from Hudes. So this is a large music sales store organization, and he wants to meet me and talk to me. And
great.
I think this is
see where it goes.
It is really that what I need. I need to talk to people. I need to have meetings, explain it a bit. And he says he doesn't have a proposal. He just wants to get the person first. And there I go. I go to Zurich for this meeting next week. And then let's see if I can arrange something there. And so the more I learn, I realize things start to work. And I just give up is not an option. Therefore, try different and try again. It's actually the advice that I really get encouraged here from you as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.
That is great.
Awesome. I'll give you another great one then that I just remembered that I did. So back in the early 2000s, somebody gave me a lead in my networking group to the Jewish Kabbalah Center of Toronto. The rabbi was there, the rabbi.
Okay.
So I met with the rabbi. The rabbi says, I'm going to give a talk on this, you know, he's going to pick a topic. And he wants to get media exposure for it. So he tells me this topic, this topic, this topic, this topic. I said, none of those are going to work, Rabbi. He goes, gets to the next one. He goes, kosher sex. I said, that's the one. Okay. So we put together a little release that he was going to be talking about that, and put it out there. Got a story in the Toronto Star, got a story in the Globe and Mail, got television to interview him. So it, you know, it was a great angle. It was a newsworthy angle.
It needs to be a little bit extreme sometimes and a little bit special. Otherwise, you don't have a chance to get through. Yeah.
Yes, so Nelson, that wasn't really newsjacking. What do you think the principle behind this angle was?
Well, it was interesting. It was coming out of a rabbi's mouth first of all.
Exactly.
And in fact, and it had the word sex in it. So anything with sex sells. You know, another one was when I worked with a weight loss clinic that was specifically designed for men only group in Toronto, and they did a survey about you know, when the guys slimmed down, how much more they were getting in the bedroom. And and we put the results of the survey out there, and it was snapped up by all the media. So that was another one.
That's cool.
So that was another one that I did that was kind of cool and worked. Yeah, so you just got to think a little bit outside of the box and find things that aren't out of the ordinary, boring. They got to stand out. They can't be all about a product being better than another product. The only one that can get away with that is Apple, because Apple is Apple. And Apple, you know, every time they introduce a new iPhone, they get tons of media coverage because they're Apple. I mean, only Apple can do that, right? You just got to find things that are different and out of the ordinary that someone might not necessarily think about in terms of crafting angles. In fact, I don't even like to put press releases out there really anymore. What I like to do instead is create a email pitch with bullet points in them, with 3 or 4 bullet points, which are much shorter than a press release and gets right to the point about why they might be interested in doing a story on this, or why they might be interested in interviewing the client. Something short with 3 or 4 bullet points, you know, with a title, is going to go a lot better, because first of all, journalists they don't have 30 seconds anymore. They've got 10 or 15 seconds. They'll skim your pitch, and if they see something in there, you know, in the first 10 seconds that catches their eye, they'll mark it to look at later, and they'll come back to it. And that's the kind of thing you want to happen, because if that happens, your chances of getting news coverage go way up.
Yes,
so
definitely.
I wouldn't say the press release is totally dead, but I would say it's better to do it in a format of pitch points in an email rather than a news release.
Yes, I did like in the companies that I was working for, I did always a combination, of course, because they were big companies, public companies, like really global companies. Then we still did press releases, but not very often, maybe once a month, because of course we didn't want to, you know, for press releases to lose values, because there were simply too many out there, right? But at the same time, I did pitches, but to select media, of course, and the pitches were always personalized. So do you personalize your pitches as well, Nelson?
When I have relationships with the people that I'm pitching, absolutely. When I don't have relationships, I don't. Okay, and it sometimes still works, because if it's in their beat, and it's interesting and they like it, then it doesn't necessarily have to be personalized. The other thing I would say is, if you study up on what the person's writing about, the reporter is writing about, and mention that right off the top. Hey, saw your story about X, really thought that was interesting. Here's something that might interest you because of that. That's liable to catch their eye too. Perfect.
Yes, absolutely. Because you are kind of complimenting them on something that they have already done. So basically, first of all, you say, okay, I follow you, number one. And then also you date them, right? And then you take it as an opportunity to introduce what you actually want to pitch. Perfect.
Right.
Yeah. Love this. And okay. Oh, there's something I wanted to ask you, but I forgot. So maybe, what do you think? I don't know, maybe I'll ask you this question later, but maybe do you have any other anecdote from your very long experience as a publicist? Any other angle, cool angle, funny angle that you created? I know, and by the way, this is something that I wanted to ask you, I'm sorry. So I think from my experience, it is very important to know what the industry is talking about. Right. So that's why you have to, you know, keep up with industry publications and follow the blogs and newspapers and so like the industry publications, like all of the industry channels, of course. And then sometimes also be informed about the general news, not just the industry news, because sometimes it's like a piece of general information, general news that could be actually leveraged in your industry as well. Right.
Okay. So for general news, okay, I got some gray hair here. I'm a little older than you. And I'm okay. I'm 62, going to be 63. I am old school. I still read 3 newspapers every day that are delivered to my door. I read the Toronto Star, the Globe and Mail, and the National Post. Why? 1, I'm interested in news. 2, the reason I'm interested in news is I am always looking for reporters to pitch. If I try and read all the news on my phone, that's not going to happen. So I tear out guys that I want to pitch out of the paper and bring them down to my office. You know, like I can't do that on my phone. And I don't read the New York Times, but I do it for that reason, because I'm a news junkie and I want to be informed, and I can't be as informed as I want to be by doing it on my phone. And I watch the news at night. So I'm a news junkie, and I like to get my news the old way. There's just too much interruption on your phone. You're getting, I mean, so you can't do it that way. And you know,
you need to be informed, absolutely. And I mean, when I went into personal PR, into PR school a few years ago, it's 15 years ago, I was like, okay, there was not so much information about publicists. There was no real social media or YouTube that would tell you, a day in the life of a publicist. No, nothing of the kind. But I did find a book on Amazon, and it was about, how to become a publicist, basically. And it said you have to read at least 3 newspapers a day. And then I don't know, read, of course, weekly publications as well. And then the list went on and on and on. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I mean, for this job, I need to get, I'm paid to read all of the news, because I grew up when I was a child already reading all of the especially magazines. I love them. Yes. So definitely. I mean, Chris Ritchie were asking us, okay, what do you need to do in order to be a publicist? Of course, you need to be, of course, trained, formally trained, not formally trained, but at least know a little bit of the theory of publicity. And then you have to have your practice as well, of course, your experience. But it's also about, I would say, Nelson, a genuine love for following the news. As you said, you're a news junkie.
100%.
Yes.
100%. There's a guy out there in Texas that was just trying to get it up here. Oh, here it is. There's a guy out there in Texas that used to be a Fox News reporter. His name is Jeff Crilly. He wrote a book a number of years ago. TV reporters shares the secrets of getting covered on the news. And he ended up leaving the news business and coming to the other side of the business and starting a PR company. And he's been doing it like 15 years now, and he's got tons of corporate clients, and he's just like, he gave me a Zoom a Zoom walkthrough of his studios and stuff. Like, the guy just blew me away. But he came from that side of the business to this side of the business, and he obviously has, like you said, a love for the news. In fact, he does a news show every single day with his clients. But yeah, so you have to have a love for the news and current news and keeping up with the news, which I do. And one of the other ones that you asked about, another cool one that I did way back in the early 2000s was, there's a a morning show in Toronto called Breakfast Television on City TV. City TV is a one of the major stations here, and so it's a lifestyle oriented show that has news as well. And so I got really good, had a really good relationship with the senior producer of the show, and I could call her up on the phone when she was answering the phone. She doesn't answer the phone anymore. And I could pitch her anything I wanted. And I said, okay, I've got an author of a book called, get ready for this one, Jessica. It's called Ride 'em Jewish Cowboy. The guy owned a ranch and he rode horses, and he wrote this book about that. And I said, hey, okay. I said, hey, Tracy, I've got an author of a book over the phone. I said, he owns a ranch. He's got horses. How about we bring this was in November, early November. How about we bring 2 horses down to the City TV parking lot? We'll put your host up on one horse. We'll put the author up on the other horse, and we'll do the interview on top of horses in the parking lot live on the air. She goes, when can you be here?
Mom, immediately.
Yeah, it's like she was all over it, right?
Oh my God, when did that happen? A few days later.
That happened in like 2004. Yeah, another, and that was good. Another one that I did is in the last 2 years was again with the show. They also had a live segment where they would go out to a fun place every day, and they would usually give you 3 or 4 segments, cut-ins into the show. But when the pandemic hit, they stopped doing that many. And so I had a drone company here in Canada that is a managed service that more so targets B2B than B2C. And so I pitched them on coming out to their flying field and having them interview the CEO live on the air while the drone takes off in the background, goes up in the air, flies away, turns around, flies back, and lands. And the whole angle was about how drones can help in the pandemic, deliver essential things to places like that are in faraway places that couldn't necessarily get there by air or by ground. Also
Amazing.
did that with another morning show here in Toronto. Was supposed to actually be on the air prior to the pandemic because they were exhibiting at the Canadian International Auto Show, and they sent a camera down. And long story short, they shot the piece that was supposed to go on air tape delayed, and never got tape delayed. And months later, I was talking to the producer, and she said, "What else? I had something on the air with him." She says, "What else? What else do you represent?" And I said, "Well, I'll tell you a little story. The story is you guys sent a cameraman down. You were supposed to go live. You couldn't go live because you were short-staffed. So you did tape delayed. They came by, they shot the piece, and it never went to air." And she goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry." She goes, "Tell me how it relates to COVID." So I talking about newsjacking, right? Back to what crafting an angle. So I sent her an email telling her 3 or 4 or 5 different angles on how drones related to the pandemic. And she scheduled it, and they came out in 2020, and we got a live hit on the air with the drone doing exactly that. But the angle was the pandemic and how drones can help in the pandemic. So that was the newsworthy. That was why they did it, because it was a newsworthy angle.
Yes, definitely. Oh my God, based on the pandemic, which everybody was talking about anyway. That is so cool. Wow, I love that. Oh, Mama, you're so creative.
Thank you.
But you trained as well. Oh my God, your brain. I see angles everywhere. When I'm talking to people, I say, oh yeah, this could be an angle, this could be an angle, this could be an angle. Sometimes I have to contain myself because I see angles everywhere. Does it happen to you as well?
Sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes you have to, again, like I said before, you have to try and think a little bit out of the box and give them what they're looking for, right? So when she said to me, "Tell me how this relates to the pandemic," because all we're having are guests on in the morning that relate to the pandemic, I had to give her all these angles to see if they would want to talk to the CEO. They wouldn't do it just because, hey, he's a nice guy, and they've got a nice company. They could tell him, go buy an ad, right?
Yes.
That it was relatable because it was a it was a topic that was being talked about every day anyways.
Exactly. So the topic already had traction. So you just
Yeah.
jumped on the rocket ship, so to say, because the rocket ship was already going, right?
The rocket
And you
ship
jumped.
the rocket ship was already flying high and launched, and they were you know, talking about it anyways. So in fact, what was really great about the segment was I actually came up with was they were in the back of the company's warehouse, and they had the drones there. And I said, why don't we just have the CEO use his iPhone as the live eye, as the live camera? So when they brought him on the air, he had the phone facing him so that they could get him on camera. And then when he wanted to do show and tell, all he did was hit a button on the phone, and the camera went the other way, and then he could just pan with his phone, and that was live on the air, and that's the way we did it.
Yeah, that was newsworthy in itself. This is amazing. Oh my God, learning so much from you. But Nelson, because I see that we are approaching the top of the hour, so we're approaching the end of our conversation. So I'd like to ask you this question. So what is a question that I haven't asked you, but I should have asked you?
Oh, what are you asking me? What you should have asked me?
Yes.
Oh,
I like doing that because maybe like the interviewee, the guest doesn't feel complete and they still would like to say something, right?
I think every company or every person out there with a product needs to do PR. They, you know, if they just do advertising, they're missing a piece of the puzzle. They need to do PR, and they need to find angles in order to do that. And so that you have a combination of PR, advertising, social media, it all works together. You can't just do one, you can't just do one piece. You have to, it all has to work together. I constantly tell public companies, if I'm pitching a public company on my own and it's not a warm lead that somebody's given me, the usual standard answer I get from a CEO is, oh, I've got an IR, investor relations company, that does all that for me. And then I very politely have to read the CEO, the Riot Act, and say, no, you know, an IR company doesn't do what I do. An IR company tries to bring institutional investors into the company. What I do is different. I go out there and I get you exposure. You need the exposure. Because you need the PR to help drive the IR to bring in potential investors into the company so that you can get your ultimate goal. And your ultimate goal is to try and get your stock to go up. So you need to do PR, you need to do IR, you need to do advertising. You have to do it all. The ones that stop promoting when there's a downturn in the economy or a recession, it's the wrong decision, because you'll get left behind. If you don't keep promoting, you'll get left behind, and they'll forget about you. So you gotta be able to make noise, and if you can make noise when no one else is making noise, they're gonna want to talk to you.
Yes, you're totally right. Yeah, exactly. So it's a constant exercise because we need to stay top of mind. You're so right.
That's exactly it. That's exactly right.
Right, absolutely.
So I say that you have to keep, you have to find a way to find a budget to keep yourself out there and keep yourself noticed all the time. Because the minute you stop promoting is when they're going to forget about you. And in fact, you want to be a reporter's or a producer's best friend. What you really want, because if you're the go-to person to come to get a source for a story, rather than having to go and pitch your heart out, those are relationships that that are golden. That if they come to you, you want it that way, that they're coming to you for a source, not the other way around.
Oh my God, I love what you just mentioned. This is actually one of the, I have a little, assessment. It's about 70 questions that people take to find out where they stand, how high they score on a thought leadership. And one of the questions that I ask is, are you regularly contacted by the press for for a comment on a story. So people say yes, they're regulated, and this is a huge indicator of the fact that you are the go-to person for them in that particular industry or for that particular area, right? So this really speaks to your thought leadership and to reputation and so on. Exactly. It's even better so that you don't even have to pitch; they just come to you, right?
Well,
Because
yeah, exactly.
It is possible
if your phone rings or you get an email and it's either from a producer or a reporter wanting to interview your client, my attitude is your mother better be dying for you to say no. You don't say no under any circumstances. If you're too busy, then you find somebody else to be the media spokesperson to do it. Just like the example I told about earlier in the call about how my client said that, can't you find another day to get this done? And I said, no. If you say no, it goes away and I can't get it back. They want it for tonight's news. And if you say no, they'll never want to work with you again. There are a million people like me, PR people like me, pitching stories. I'm a dime a dozen. Do you not think that they'll find another source?
Yes.
It's really easy for them.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my God, this is so true. Yeah, so we better take the opportunities as soon as they come. Exactly. So maybe, when it comes to the strategy, you said, okay, let's start local, with local publications or local shows and so on. And that would be the way, to build yourself up on the publicity pyramid, so to say, of course. But if, an opportunity from a national TV comes to you, take it immediately.
Yeah, well, especially because now, if you've got examples to show, because sometimes producers are now asking, have they got experience in front of the camera, and they want to make sure that that the source is going to get on there and not blow the interview and not be struggling for answers when they get asked pointed questions by the anchors, right? So they got to be camera ready. And so, in fact, they'll sometimes ask for you to send video, examples of videos to show that they're good on the air, that they'll be comfortable with them on the air. And they'll often sometimes pre-interview the interviewee to make sure that they're good. So, media training is very, very, very important for anybody that's doing interviews with the media.
Do you actually offer media training services as well?
Not as a separate service, but in the course of what I do, I will, don't say don't say sit straight in front of the camera, look at the camera, don't be pointing, I'll give them tips on what they need to do and how they're supposed to say things. And I'll tell them too that if the anchor takes the direction of the interview in a direction that they don't want, what their goal is to do is to bring it back to where they want it to be.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I had one situation many years ago where they were doing a live eye at on a morning show at a client of mine who was a podiatrist, and he also had I apologize for the phone ringing. She also had a Canadian had patients in there. He told some of his patients to come so that they'd have people there, and one of them happened to be a Canadian actor who was on several different movies. And so during the break, actually, I said to him, "I'm coming that day," and he goes, "Okay, you'll come, you'll say hello, you'll leave." I said, "No, Hartley." I said, "This is my segment. I pitched it. I got it for you. I'm there for the duration to make sure everything goes right for you." I said, "I'm not going anywhere. I'm not leaving." So during the break between the segments, the host who was there to do the live eye starts talking to this actor and starts, "Oh, you're talking to him about his career." And I overhear this. I go, she goes, "We ought to talk about that next time." I said, so I went over to him privately. I said, "Hartley, get him and his wife out of here into the next room." I said, "He's about to destroy your next segment with talking about his she wants to talk to him about his acting career. I said, that's not what we planned here. I said, I pitched 5 different segments to the producer. This is what I promised that we would do. Get him into the waiting room and get him out of here. Otherwise, this is going to go sideways on you.
Mm-hmm.
And we did. We got him out of there. And every time I have a client going on the air, either live or tape delayed, I always make it a practice of going there to make sure it goes right. My wife says to me all the time, "What do you need to go there?" I said, because I pitched it. It's my segment. I got to make sure it goes right. And even when they're doing interviews on Zoom, I insist on being on the Zoom call. I'll shut my camera and I'll shut my audio, but I have to be there to make sure that it goes right, or I'll stop the interview in the middle of the interview and I'll say, okay, we need to you need to re-ask this question, and then they'll get it like in the editing, right?
Yes.
But I'm the guy that pitched it. I'm the expert that they've hired to get it for them. I got to be there to make sure it goes the way they want it to go.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree. Definitely. Yeah. I can't be everywhere either, but I would try to be there as well. Definitely. And certainly for TV. Oh my God. Or for radio and so on. Oh my God. You're amazing. You put so much work into this. We can tell that you're you're certainly passionate. You don't just
I'm very passionate. I'm very passionate. And I take pride in my work. And like, that's just my nature.
Yes.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah, because this is you're going the extra mile by doing this. This is certainly not expected. This is what most people wouldn't do, most publicists.
You know, and other things that I do going the extra mile is I've got some very interesting software on my computer, and I will, whenever a client is on the air, either on a morning show or let's say as part of a news story that's going to be on a news, like for instance, I'll set my computer to record the entire segment, not rely on the fact that the television station is going to put the segment up on their website. Why? Because those links go dead after a year or two. I'll record it, and if they give it, let's say they give a teaser for the story, you know, before the story airs, I'll have gotten the teaser, I'll have gotten the beginning of the news, and then I can go and I can edit the beginning of the news. And if there's like a couple of 2 or 3 teasers before the story actually airs, I can take all those pieces and edit them together, and then give them the entire piece that they can use, and then I'll give them the MP4, and then they can use that MP4 to go up on their website and share that on their social media. Same thing if they're doing a radio interview, I'll record it. And I do not rely on radio hosts to give it to me, because I make sure that the client gets an MP4 that I've recorded, or an MP4, whether it's TV or radio. I do that I don't know that other PR companies do this. They'll rely on a media monitoring company to give them a copy of it. I don't do that. I do, because I work on my own, I do it myself.
Wow. Yeah, you're so right. This is definitely something that I've heard of before. So definitely not. So because I mean, I've always worked for brands, but I've worked with PR companies, and yes, there was always a media monitoring service company in the middle, and then you just got the clippings, of course. Wow, this is amazing.
Well, even sometimes when they don't, like if it's a VOSOT, voice over sound, and it's like 40 or 45 or 50 seconds, and they don't necessarily put that up on their website, and if I've for whatever reason, if I've missed it, which doesn't happen often, but it has happened, I will pick up the phone and I will call the web department of this television station, and I'll say, your news, your 6 o'clock news did a story on the following. It aired at this time. It was only 40 seconds. I know it's not up on your website. I said, can you do one of the following? Can you either send me a copy of the MP4? And most of the times they'll say no. I said, or I'll ask them, hey, can you put that up on the web so I can so I can get a link to send it to the client? And 9 times out of 10, they'll do it.
You do it. Oh, okay, that's great. Oh my God, but it's all things that you really go the extra mile in so many different ways. These are certain things that you need to tell potential clients. I hope you do already.
I do.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, they'll put it up, and I'll be able to get it for them.
Yeah. That is amazing. Wow. Well done, Nelson. It's amazing to see that you've been in the industry for a long time, but actually you're still so driven, much more driven than people that maybe have just been in the industry for 5 years.
Like I said earlier, I'm 62. I still get an adrenaline rush every time I get a media hit. Doesn't matter how big or small it is. I'm like a kid in a candy store when that happens. I've told people the day that feeling goes away is the day that I'll hang it up. That feeling has not come yet. So I'm not hanging it up yet.
Certainly not for another few years. This is amazing. Unfortunately, we have to go now. But Nelson, will you please come back to the show, because we have so many more things to talk about?
Absolutely.
Yeah? Awesome. Perfect.
Anytime you want me on, I'll be here.
Woo! That is amazing. Please, let's do this. Certainly before the end of the year. Certainly in the next 2 months, please. Hopefully you will have time. Awesome.
I will have time for you. I will have anytime you ask, I'll be here. I will be here for you anytime.
Oh my God, what an honor. Thank you so much, Nelson. Did you hear this, Chris Rich? We'll have
Thank
Nelson
you also from my side. I really appreciated to talk to you. I learned a lot from your experience, and it inspired me, definitely.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, then, guys, I will say bye for now, but I will also say that I will see you very, very soon again, Nelson. And yes, have a good day in Toronto.
I will, and you have a good day too. And I'd love to be able to get a copy of this from you, Jessica.
Yeah, certainly. I'll tell my assistant, and she'll get in touch with you. Certainly.
Great,
cool.
Great.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.